first thing I like to do is write down my question so that I always have it on hand to refer to, because sometimes you get kind of lost in the weeds trying to interpret the symbols, and it's always nice to refer back to exactly what you asked in the first place. And since I'm a student of the BOTA, the Builders of the Adytum, this is where I learned how to do tarot divination. What they tell you to do before you begin a reading is to always invoke your higher self. So I start every tarot reading with, "Higher self, I sincerely invoke your aid in answering the following question." So I'm going to write that here. And the question I'm going to do a reading for is, how can I have a successful tarot YouTube channel? So I'm going to write that after, "Higher self, I sincerely invoke your aid in answering the following question, colon. I like to ask open-ended questions, not yes or no questions when I'm using the tarot. Because, I mean, you can, but I find it more useful to, how can I, is a good way to frame this question, I believe. So I'm going to set this off to the side and we'll get started. Like I said, the method I'm using I learned from the BOTA, Builders of the Adytum, the preeminent mystery school out of Eagle Rock, California. So having stated my question, having evoked my higher self and stating my question, I can now shuffle, and I like to shuffle 10 times. It just seems like a good number of times to shuffle. Covers the whole spectrum of numbers. You get the whole spectrum in there. So there we go. I asked the question, how can I have a successful tarot YouTube channel? 10 shuffles. All right. After shuffling, you cut the deck once to the left, put the stack back on top, and now what you're going to do is cut the deck like this. One cut here, about half the deck, and then you're going to further subdivide the two halves again with cuts to the left. So what you have here are 4 piles of cards, which correspond to the 4 letters of the divine name in Kabbalah, Yod, He, Vav, He. The Yod pile corresponds to the Hebrew letter Yod, and elementally, within the context of this divine name of 4 letters, it represents fire, which is the primary element, masculine, hot and dry, the realm of ideas, high vibration. It's the light energy. The next letter in the divine name, Yod, He, He, is representative of water. This is the yin to the yang of fire, the feminine, flowing, formative, desire nature, emotions, ideas, emotions. Yod, He, Vav. Vav, in the divine name, is the world of air, the processes of thinking, plans, movement, change, action, reaction, and therefore conflict, because these are forces all on the move with their intricate patterns of reality all passing in and amongst and through each other, and sometimes there's conflict. So Vav, and then final He, which is earth, materiality, the solid things of this earth, bodies, health, money. material possessions. So fire, air, or water, air, earth. And so what I'm looking for here is the Significator, which is the card that represents me astrologically. I'm an Aries male, unmarried, and so I've chosen for my Significator the Knight of Wands. So let's see if he's in the first pile, the fire pile, the realm of ideas. And he is. So what that means, in the context of my question, is that I asked, how can I have a successful tarot YouTube channel? So all these cards surrounding my Significator are giving me ideas, because the realm of fire is furthest away from earth, which is solidified form. We're dealing with the essential ideas, the beginning of an impulse behind something, the archetypal forms that eventually devolve themselves down into material expression through the four worlds of the Kabbalah. So I think that makes sense, given how I framed my question, how can I have a successful tarot YouTube channel? I find the Significator in the world of archetypes and ideas, so this reading is going to be giving me the fire of this equation. So I can take all the other cards and put them aside for now, off screen. And what we're going to do is I'm going to cut the cards that come after the Significator. I'm just going to move them to the very back of the whole pack here. So the Significator is on top. And then what I'm going to do is lay down the Significator at the top of what eventually will become a circle. So we're going to build a circle around the Significator, and every card following the Significator is going to go to the left, because it's the way the figure in the card is facing. So you want to lay the cards around in a circle in the direction that the Significator is moving.
So first card. Trying to make sure that I keep these all in view. Okay.
Not exactly a circle, but good enough for our purposes. So this is the first stage of tarot divination. I've found the Significator in the pack. We've established that it was in the fire realm. Usually what I do underneath my question is I write the divine name, Yud He Vav He, and whichever letter it turned up in the Significator, just put a circle around it so you can remember looking back, because it helps to frame the overall meaning of the reading if you know what world the question turned up in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to count around the circle. Every card has a number associated with it. You count the card itself in the direction it's facing as 1. Now, the number for the Knight of Wands is 4, because he is of the elements, and there are 4 elements: fire, water, air, earth. So the number of the count is 4. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. So the first card that we come to in the count is the Queen of Wands. So she is in the same suit. She could represent astrologically a female who's a fire sign, an Aries. Sagittarius, Leo. She's actually, you can see the black cat in the card. I think this card in the minor arcana is heavily associated with Leo. I think there's lions on the throne, the sunflower. So this could either be a person that would be helpful to me in establishing a successful YouTube channel. And I actually do know somebody like this, so it's interesting. Or, in general, she's also traditionally, if you look it up in like divination books, the Queen of Wands often stands for successful business, like the principle, like the type of personality that this woman has can be personified. Like if it's not associated with the person, it's just that kind of general force that means good executive skills, like good ability to, organize, and kind of leadership qualities, and knowing how to interact with others in a way that is conducive to good business practices, I guess. So, an executive woman of power. All right, she's an elemental too, so she's 4. So I count 1 on her, 2, 3, 4. We come to the Ace of Cups. This is the heart. It's the first card in the suit of cups, which symbolize emotions, desires, pleasure, enjoyment, summertime, the beauty, fun. So, within the context of my question, how can I have a successful tarot business? I don't know, maybe this is telling me that I have to focus on the desire nature, like, what do people want? Love, readings, enjoyment, how to enhance this kind of aspect of life. And since it came after a queen, we can assume that it may be directed towards women, females, the female audience perspective. I don't know, let's see what else we got. Now, since this is an ace, we're going to count 11. Aces are interesting in that they represent, on the Qabbalistic tree of life, Keter, the crown, which is the first Sephiroth. But there's a famous Qabbalistic saying that the crown is in the kingdom and the kingdom is in the crown. Malkuth is the furthest Sephiroth, all the way down, the 10th from the crown. But in a kind of mysterious way, they both inhabit each other, just on different levels of existence. So anyways, there's 10 Sephiroth on the Tree of Life. This is the ace representing Keter, but when you count 11. And I always think of that 11 as being because of it extends itself all the way down. So you put an extra on 10, kind of. I don't know. It's just a way that mnemonic device for me to remember that aces are always 11 because they go all the way from the crown down to the kingdom, making them like a little plus. Plus one more. They go the extra step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right. So the card I landed on is the Page of Pentacles. Now, if we're talking about a person here, talking about a student, a younger person who's very practical minded. They don't have really, lofty, abstract, their head's not in the clouds. They're very interested in the immediate, practical purposes of anything they're studying, but, they're very sharp and diligent and interested in the way things really work around them. Almost a kind of scientific mind, like natural sciences. So a young person that's skilled and has that kind of attitude towards life. Like, it could mean that within the context of my question, how can I have a successful YouTube channel, that this is an attitude I'm going to have to adopt for myself. This is something new to me. I've never, done anything on social media before. So maybe I really need to embrace this beginner's attitude of just, don't get too many lofty ideas, don't get my head in the clouds, but just, get really practical minded about it and enjoy it. Enjoy the process, the intricacies, the ins and outs of it, the nuts and bolts, get my hands dirty and get my hands in the soil and really just have that kind of beginner's mind about everything. Look at the novelty of it.
For the page of Pentacles and all pages, the count is 7. It's because pages correspond to Malkuth, the kingdom, which is the most material of all the Sephiroth. It's physical reality, material reality. And pages in the court card system correspond to this material reality. And the Page of Cups in particular, being the Earth page, represents the literal physical body. And the physical body has 7 chakras. And so you count 7 when you land on the page. Any of the pages, 7 for the 7 chakras, because it's a body.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, we come to the 8 of Pentacles. This card is, it means working diligently at a task, like putting your nose to the grindstone and being productive, So how can I have a successful tarot YouTube channel? Just start doing it. Make 1 video a day. I don't necessarily have to post them, but just make them and just sit there, block out some time every day and just get it done, edit it, and get it loaded up to the internet and just keep plugging away at it. So we landed on our first numbered card, and you always just count the number that's on the card, no matter what element it is. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sun. This is always a positive card in my book. It, on a mystical level, this is the heart chakra. On a cosmological level, it's the source of all life and light and heat, sustenance here on Earth. The sun is also associated with your public persona, and having a successful public persona, that riches, gain, generosity, having your day in the sun, recognition, having good energy and charisma. And so if I want to have a successful YouTube channel, I'm going to have to remember to focus on this kind of energy is what I should bring. And it'll serve me well to remember this frame of mind, to keep this as a perspective to view my channel through. All right, the sun is a planet in the old astrological reckoning. The sun and the moon are considered planets. There's 9 planets in the solar system, and so we count 9 for the sun. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Another major arcana. The sun was a major arcana. Temperance. Astrologically, this corresponds to Sagittarius, the archer, the philosophical sign of higher education who always aims high. The Temperance archetype in tarot shows your holy guardian angel. Everyone has a personal higher self. This is the person the presiding presence, my soul, if you like, or the person I invoked when I asked my higher self this question at the beginning. This card is the archetype which represents it. The idea of the middle path, never going into one extreme, never favoring one extreme over the other, but keeping things mild. You can see the figure has one foot on land, one toe dipped in the water, and he's kind of carefully mixing liquids between two different vessels. And there's another meaning to this, a deeper Qabbalistic meaning. The path on the tree of life that this archetype inhabits is called the intelligence of probation and trial, which means you got to experiment. You have to see what breaks and then fix it, and then see if you can break it again and then fix it up again. And you got to push and you got to pull. You got to try going a little this way, try going a little that way, but avoiding extremes. You're never going to know what you're capable of until you push yourself. You don't want to go into an extreme. You don't want to go charging straight for a wall or off a cliff, but you do need to make these little tests and trials and experiments to see what you can throw at the wall and what sticks. So I think in the context of the question I asked, how can I have a successful YouTube channel? Getting to this card, especially after the sun, which is, having this kind of generous, warm-hearted, persona. You get to this, which is you also have to kind of trust your higher self to guide you in these experiments, to push yourself to see what you're capable of, but without going into any extremes. All right, so since this is Sagittarius, the sign of the zodiac, and there's 12 zodiacal signs, we're going to count 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We get to another major arcana. This is the Hierophant. And it's interesting that it came right after the higher self card, Temperance, which has the holy guardian angel. All of us have a holy guardian angel. Because here, the Hierophant also represents the kind of higher self within you, who you can always turn to ask any question whatsoever in meditation. The whole concept of the tarot working for divination is that all of us, every single individual human being, is a fractal representation of the one self, which is God. Therefore, if we ask any question and arrange the right symbols in front of us as fractals of the one over self, that intelligence can arrange the symbols in such a way that they reveal truth, because we're all connected, all is one. The intelligence that is the consciousness that is God is everything. It's everything that is, ever was, and will be. And that's how divination works. As a little fractal representative focused to this personality that I am here at this time on Earth now, I have access to that information if I take the time to tune into my higher self, quiet down the intellect and the heart. The two ministers kneeling before the higher self here represent the kind of chattering monkey mind, and then the turbulent heart that's always kind of rushing after different emotional gratifications. If you get those two to sit down and be quiet, a little bit each day, just say 5 minutes in the morning, you actually will begin to hear a kind of higher voice speaking to you through your heart, which is the voice of everything. and it knows everything, and it reveals to you any question that you can, as long as you can phrase the question correctly, you can get an approximate answer. Some people maybe more truth than others. It all just depends on your distortions. So anyways, bringing it back to the context of the question, how can I have a successful YouTube channel? I'm going to have to tune in to my heart and listen for that inner voice that is constantly guiding us, the still, small, quiet voice. This card is Taurus in the zodiac. The Hierophant is the Taurus. So again, we're going to count 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Get to the Two of Pentacles, and this card can be interpreted as harmony amidst change. Keeping your balance. You can see how the guy is kind of doing this rocking dance like sailors when they get on a boat. They have sea legs. One side of the boat's rising, and then the other goes down, and then like you gotta kind of go with the flow. While something disappointing might happen, so instead of getting stuck, focused on that, you look to another task. Being able to balance between two polarities to keep you moving forward. So maintaining kind of harmony amidst changing circumstances. Sometimes things will be up, sometimes they'll be down, but if you can kind of get your sea legs and continue moving forward, that will lead to having a successful tarot YouTube channel. All right, it's a minor arcana number card. It's 2, so 1, 2. And we finally come back to a card that we hit upon once before, the Ace of Cups. And when that happens, you stop the count. And that means that this card is the most important card of the reading, of this part of the reading for your question. And so the Ace of Cups is that desire force. I think I interpreted it earlier as like maybe in my audience I should focus on like emotional love questions or something, but I have a new idea now that it's the most important card in the whole reading. This could actually mean my own desire nature, probably because, I'm the one giving a reading for myself. This means my heart has to be in it. I have to be genuinely interested in seeing this tarot channel be successful. I can't just be doing it as a distraction or a chore or just as a way to like hopefully try and make some extra income online. It has to be something I truly care about, and that desire, that passion needs to be there for it to be successful. So that's how I've read it, and that's the first stage of the first part of a reading, according to the BOTA, Builders of the Adderton Divination Method. The second part, which I'll go into now, is called pairing. So we just done the counting. Now we're going to do pairing. And for pairing, what you do is you take the Significator, the Knight of Wands, and you just pair every card on either side of it. Without mixing up the order.
See if I can do this without. Yeah.
All right. So this row of cards here on this side of the Significator is the past. This row of cards on this side of the Significator is the future. So in the past is the Hermit. Astrologically, the Hermit is Virgo. And Virgo is an interesting sign astrologically. The Virgin. They're ruled by Mercury, so they're very intelligent, and they're also very serving. They're people pleasers. They like to get along with others, but they're smart. But the Hermit, the archetype itself, beyond the astrological association, is yet another representation of the higher self that is within you, but as opposed to Temperance or the Hierophant, which we looked at before. This is kind of the inner self, like the ancient part of yourself that is always with you, always within you. It stands at the heights of a mountain, holding up a lantern as a beacon. So I would say that in the context of my question, how can I have a successful YouTube channel? This is saying in the past, I have studied the tarot closely enough. I know a lot about it. I know what the symbols mean. I know how to read the cards. I could say that this, in the past, since I've done that work, this Hermit is available to me. What this archetype represents, holding up this lantern on top of the mountain, kind of guiding me, this wise inner representation of the self is activated in me and is available for me to draw upon for having a successful tarot YouTube channel. Okay, the next card that's opposite the Hermit, which was in the past position, in the future position, is Temperance, the higher self. So again, guidance from a higher level of my own being, which is helping me to test things out, experiment, try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, but never flying off the handle, doing anything crazy. Just carefully experimenting until you find that right, perfect mixture, that right, perfect combination of things. Being willing to compromise, like having the attitude of someone who's just willing to let reality reveal itself to you while you're working with it without any kind of preconceived ideas. So that's important for me to remember in the future. So we come to the Page of Pentacles. Again, that kind of beginner's mind, a young student kind of attitude that's focused on practical concerns, really interested in how things work, which is, related to the attitude I was just describing with Temperance. So the next step of the past, it's always kind of fuzzy, these boundaries that we put on readings. You got to just kind of follow your intuition. So if this is the past pile, does it progressively become the past? Like past, future, next past, next future? That's one way to look at it. So for right now, we'll say after I kind of encounter this archetype, this is the next one that we'll consider. Opposite the Page of Pentacles is the Three of Swords. You never like to see this card. But it's actually kind of a blessing in disguise sometimes. It means sadness, sorrow, but understanding achieved through sadness and sorrow. So what this could mean is that, I don't know, maybe I'll get my feelings hurt running a social media account. Maybe I'll have some nasty comments in the comment section, or, somehow I could be emotionally hurt in this undertaking. So this is something I'm going to have to prepare myself for. But what's interesting about the tarot is, there's always a kind of bright side. For every dark side, there's a bright side. And the bright side of this is you gain understanding. And if you learn not to make the same mistake over again, this is a very valuable lesson that you can learn. So I might have some of this in store for me if I move forward with trying to have a successful tarot YouTube channel. Next card on the past. The Ace of Pentacles. This means an opportunity for the beginning of, with the YouTube channel, I'd say maybe money. Maybe I could somehow make this profitable. If I materialize this, I could get, the opportunity at least is being kind of handed to me. If I go ahead, if I go for it, that opportunity is there. Which leads to the Queen of Wands, which I was describing before, could be interpreted as a business success, the kind of like fiery executive leader, calling the shots, knows how to manage people and affairs, and just has that kind of entrepreneurial energy, I guess you could associate with this card. Or maybe it's this girl I know who I've, talked to in the past. She's a Leo, about doing something tarot related with, like some kind of business venture in that regard. So those are two things to think about in interpreting. Interesting. So we just had the Fire Queen. Now we have the Water Queen. So if the Fire Queen represents, business acumen, kind of a fiery executive nature, the Queen of Cups is more passive and receptive and kind of like a poet, given to visions. As a woman, she's usually the beautiful kind of, woman that men write poetry and songs about. The Queen of Hearts, the very passive, feminine, watery female that's very desirable. In the context of this question, I don't know what this could mean, that I need to get in touch with a feminine aspect of myself, or maybe I should try and appeal to this type of perspective as an audience, or that I'm going to need to do some passive emotional reflecting to understand how to make my tarot YouTube channel successful. So immediately across from her is hard work. It's putting the nose to the grindstone, getting in a groove, like all the planning's been done, now you know what to do. Start cranking them out. We got the Lovers here. Now, it's tempting to think of this as a love relationship or romance happening, and many times it represents exactly that. But I'm thinking in the context of this question, it means a balance between my conscious mind and my subconscious mind. And when those two are in harmony with each other, the higher self is able to manifest. So you have the male who's projective mentally and receptive emotionally, standing across from the woman who is receptive intellectually and projective emotionally, and they create this kind of harmonic figure eight between them. And while that can happen between, people who identify as these genders out in the real world, it's also happening within yourself, because your conscious mind is the active principle and your subconscious mind is the passive principle, and there is a kind of love relationship between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind. And when they can reveal themselves to each other, like Adam and Eve in the garden with no shame before the fruit was eaten, that brings down the higher self is able to manifest. And you'll notice that the woman is able to see the higher self, while the man looks to the woman. She's looking up at the angel, the man is looking at the woman. And what this is symbolizing is that the higher self always manifests itself through the subconscious. The conscious mind can't grasp that superconscious state. Those bigger than yourself kind of expansive spiritual experiences that William James and anyone who's ever taken DMT talks about. You can't consciously grasp those alone. The conscious mind has to look at subconsciousness and let those states come through her, because she is able to see them, but not the conscious mind. So when you get these two in harmony, you can skillfully, without psychedelic drugs, naturally through meditation, kind of bring in these elevated states of consciousness that reveal more than you would see otherwise. So I think what this is saying is, it's in the past position. I've done work like this in my past, and I'll be better off if I remember that I need to kind of maintain this harmonic balance between my conscious and subconscious mind, so the superconscious ideas can kind of manifest themselves. Interesting, because the lovers are two, right? The twins, Gemini. And then we have this polarity, the Two of Pentacles, which, if you had to sum this card up in one word, it would be polarity. Like being able to maintain that balance, harmony amidst change. So you have the major arcana principle of harmony with the lovers, expressing itself in the very material world of Pentacles as the harmony between two polarities and just keeping a balance between them without getting unbalanced. Again, the Hierophant, listening to the inner voice, following your intuition, meditating, being available to hear what your higher self is kind of whispering in your ear, quieting down the heart and the mind on a regular, routine basis in order to get that wisdom into your life. Interesting. The heart, the center of feeling and desire, nature, the force of the emotions. So quieting down, listening to the heart, and just letting the heart kind of overflow and speak, and really focusing on, like, what do I want? What do I really want? What do I truly enjoy? What am I trying to get out of this? How is this going to emotionally sustain me? And how can I make this fun, enjoyable? And, the passion, the desire has to be there. And again, the heart chakra, the sun, key 19. This can mean charisma, having your day in the sun. Generosity, feelings of magnanimity, because you're confident. It's confidence in your personal self, feeling all right with yourself, enough so that nobody can really knock you down a peg. You have a surplus of confident energy that allows you to spread it around. You can lift others up because you feel that kind of regenerative life force. The sun in your heart chakra, you feel connected to that. It gives you like almost like a childlike confidence in yourself and the world around you. The sun is always there to nourish and sustain you, and you feel that warmth. There's no fear or hesitation. You just feel very confident, bold. So this kind of vibe, this is a feeling to tap into within the context of my question of how to have a successful YouTube channel. So say I do tap into that vibe, or I have in the past, it will result in this, the Knight of Swords, who can kind of be a bit much. The sword suit. This is only the second sword suit, which is interesting because swords are kind of conflicts, problems, things that you need, issues that need to be worked out. And so far this reading has been really positive, but the Knight of Swords isn't necessarily negative. It's just ideas, intellectual, full of thoughts about things and in a rush to express them. Air, signs, movement, communication, speed. It can mean, in a negative light, it can mean arrogance, having these kind of enjoying overwhelming people with like intelligence and kind of, arguing, being up for debate, being a challenging kind of person with your thoughts and your minds. And in a positive light, it could just mean that you're quick, sharp, and intent on reaching your goal, and you've got the energy to get there. So we'll look at it that way. Now we see the King of Wands here. Interesting. We had the Queen earlier, and then my significator is the Knight of Wands. So here's the King. This is a fire sign male who is, fire is, creative. It's linked up to intuition and kind of spirituality. So this is a man who is creative, can use his instincts, and he's got a fiery nature. He's ardent, he's impulsive, he likes to start projects. He doesn't like to stick around to see them finish, though. And remember, this whole context turned up in the pile, in the Yod-He Vav-He pile. It was in the fire pile. So how might I interpret this? I'd say maybe this aspect of myself, having that kind of quick, intuitive, impulsive nature that is, good-natured, though, and, is feels creative, wants a kind of a creative release through this YouTube channel, wants to get things started, wants to see things get moving, and feels inspired by that. From a masculine perspective of kind of like, reason, management, framing things, calculating, cataloging. We had the Ace of Cups earlier. Now we have its opposite, the Ace of Wands, which, if the Ace of Wands is desire force, you could just say this is natural energy, like just joie de vivre, as the French say, that kind of like, what do you call that, pep? Old American word, maybe, slang, like just having a gusto or whatever. I believe BOTA calls this naturally invoked force as opposed to artificially invoked force. So it's an interesting distinction. I think it means like a force that kind of, an impulsive urge that kind of bubbles up from inside, that once you get fired up about a project and just you got the energy to go, you got the energy to move, and you wanna just start. Finally, come to this card, which, as an odd card, it ends up at the bottom opposite the Significator. So if this is me, and this is the final card, I mean, it could have been possible that there was an even number of cards, and so it would have been here and another card here, but it's here. And so this means it's kind of my obstacle after this whole pairing process. This is the obstacle that I'm going to have to understand in order to have a successful tarot YouTube channel. This is kind of what's in my way. But paradoxically, often what's in your way, once you figure it out, once you meditate on it, and you understand, how the symbol fits into the dynamics of the forces in your life, it becomes the solution. The Eight of Cups, what immediately comes to mind is turning away for higher things. You're kind of bored of whatever you had been involved with, and you feel as though it's no longer worth the investment of emotion. You kind of like, I've had enough. I'm going to move on. I'm going to go look for something better because this isn't living up to what I wanted initially. I'm trying to think I think instability is the word that the BOTA assigns to this card. I believe that's correct. Instability. So, my obstacle in having a successful tarot YouTube channel, and this actually makes sense because, I've been thinking about doing this for years, but I'm always kind of just like, am I prostituting the amazing spiritual technology that the tarot is by putting it up on YouTube? Just, shouldn't I be focused on the higher things? So I can see how this card kind of fits. I mean, I have arguments against that. I think the tarot is an incredible tool that should be shared more widely, and that maybe there's people out there who could benefit from the particular perspective that I've studied it from. But anyhow, to end the reading, this is my obstacle that I got to think about. Instability and getting kind of sick of something and feeling like it's not worth the emotional effort, and moving on in search of something higher, something better to occupy yourself with.